Almost 2,000 years ago, a Roman statesman sat down to write a letter to his father-in-law, a man who kept complaining that life was too short. He wasn't writing to comfort him. He was writing to correct him. And the correction he offered still applies, almost word for word, to the exact excuse most people give today for staying comfortable. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Read that again. He wasn't arguing against the complaint that life feels short. He was arguing against the idea that time is the problem at all. The problem was never the length of the runway. The problem was what people were doing with it. Picture someone in their 30s, comfortable in a job that stopped challenging them years ago. They tell themselves there isn't time to start something new. Too much responsibility now, too many obligations, too late to begin again. But look closer at an ordinary week. Hours spent scrolling before bed. Evenings spent avoiding a conversation they've needed to have for months. Weekends spent recovering from a week that wasn't actually that demanding, recovering out of habit more than necessity. None of this looks like waste from the inside. It looks like rest. It looks like normal life. Seneca would have called it something else. He wasn't describing lazy people. He was describing comfortable people, which, as he pointed out, is a much easier trap to fall into. Because comfort doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like default. This is the part worth sitting with. Seneca's letter wasn't really about idle people wasting obvious hours. He was writing about something sharper. That the comfortable life quietly consumes time in ways that never announce themselves. Chasing minor approval. Managing other people's expectations. Filling hours with things that feel productive but lead nowhere in particular. None of it feels like waste because none of it feels effortful. That's exactly what makes comfort more dangerous than laziness. Laziness announces itself. You know when you're doing nothing. Comfort disguises itself as responsibility, as rest. I see just not the right time yet. And an entire year can disappear inside that disguise, without a single obviously wasted afternoon. Seneca's answer wasn't to work harder in the conventional sense. It was to ask a much more uncomfortable question. Of the hours you call for, how many are actually yours? Chosen on purpose in the direction of something that matters? And how many are simply the path of least resistance, dressed up as necessity? Most people, if they're honest, don't like the answer. Their discomfort is the point. It's the first sign that the comfort has been doing its quiet work. Here's what changes once you actually absorb what Seneca was saying. You stop asking, how do I find more time? Because that question assumes time is the scarce resource. You start asking, what have I been trading my time for? Because because that question puts the responsibility back where it belongs. Comfort isn't neutral. It isn't free. It isn't simply taking a break. Every hour spent inside it is an hour spent the same as any other. Just spent on staying the same instead of becoming something else. Seneca wasn't scolding his father-in-law for aging. He was correcting a story. The story that time was the enemy, when the real cost was always where that time had quietly been going. Today, take an honest look at one ordinary stretch of your week. Not to judge it, just to actually see it. Ask what a version of Seneca's letter, written to you, might say about where your hours have really been going. You don't need to fix all of it today. You just need to stop calling it rest. If it's actually been comfort, quietly spending you. That's not a small correction. It's the exact one a Roman statesman thought was worth writing down. Almost 2,000 years ago. And it still lands exactly the same today.